All right, welcome to a TV review here on Josh Does Movies. As last night and earlier this morning, we had the new Star Wars series, Obi-Wan Kenobi, finally finish its 6 episode run on Disney Plus. And I'm going to tell you some things that I liked about the show, but also some things that I didn't like about the show, and the overall commentary I think I've seen online in different places. But first off, if you're here, if you want to hear about Obi-Wan, leave a like, leave a subscription. Maybe I'll do a spoiler review to go more in depth because I'm going to try to keep the spoiler free as I do with most of my reviews. But I feel like there's a lot to unpack with this show here on Disney Plus. Obi-Wan Kenobi for me was coming into the year as one of my top series that I was looking forward to. I love Ewan McGregor in the prequel role. I think he's an excellent actor. And even though I think the way they left off in, the Revenge of the Sith, and A New Hope, their interactions work decently well. I do think there was an opportunity here to have a really great character study in a character story featuring Obi-Wan that does intertwine him a bit with Darth Vader, as we kind of see a little bit in the image here for the show. And so it was way up there in my expectations. I know for a lot, there's a discussion right now about people having high expectations and being upset that they didn't get what they wanted. And I do think that's a fair thing to talk about when you talk about TV shows and people not being happy with them. Is you shouldn't judge and base a TV show based on what you want to happen and what you feel should happen and stuff like that. But you should base a TV show on the story and presentation it tells you throughout. And for me, while I think Obi-Wan has a great ending with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, the overall parts of the show was a giant miss for me. And I feel that if I'm just judging the show by itself, not even looking at canon, not even looking at the history from A New Hope, from all the other stuff, if I'm just looking at how the show is made as a whole in a vacuum of just the 6 episodes, I think this was a very, very mediocre, middling show that had very, very bad writing, very, very bad character development, and I'll be honest, if you didn't have attachment to Kenobi, and especially I think to Vader, I think this series as a whole, if this was brand new characters, would be a flop and an afterthought. And I'll go into the reasonings why I feel that way a bit here and there. But I'll start off with some of the positives. Like I said, the last episode, we have a great interaction and a great confrontation between Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan. That does give you some really strong character moments. And even though I'll say, after seeing this, I wish we had that for part of the show, that's not why I'm so down on the show, because I wanted something more in terms of a character study between Anakin and Vader at his mindset at this point, and Obi-Wan. That just happened to be part of the finale that I really enjoyed the most that happened. I think that the star of the show, the surprise star of the show, was Vivian Lyra Blair, who played a young 10-year-old Leia Organa. As a kid actress goes, I think she had charisma and played the role extremely well. I do think it limited the story in some different points, but if you're going to include Princess Leia at this age in the storyline and going to cast an actress for it, she did the best job she can and did a phenomenal job holding screen presence and making the show feel great when she was on it, when a lot of times young kid actors of that age can pull you back out and worry you overall. And I'll be honest, that's kind of where my positives stop with the show. Ewan McGregor was always great acting in the show, but the writing behind it was very, very weak. To give you a context of the plot of the show, we come back to Obi-Wan after the events of Revenge of the Sith, kind of living a hermit-style life on Tatooine, keeping an eye on Luke, making sure nothing goes wrong. Where he kind of, you know, where we kind of get introduced to the Inquisitors, Darth Vader's kind of Sith style Padawans who are out looking for old Jedi that survived Order 66. One of those Inquisitors is played by Moses Ingram. She plays Reva, our third sister, who has a particular obsession with finding Obi-Wan to please her master, Darth Vader. To get Obi-Wan out and about, she decides to hire pirates to kidnap a Leia Organa, the daughter of a senator that worked very closely to Obi-Wan during the Clone Wars, and just so happened, as we know, to be Anakin's daughter, to which Senator Organa tasks Obi-Wan with retrieving her and returning her home safely. On this adventure of saving Leia, Obi-Wan has confrontations with both Moses Ingram's Reva as well as other parts of the Empire, including Vader himself a couple of times. That's the main plot of the show, and that's where we went with it. And to be perfectly honest, I was okay with this plot in some angles, but how they wrote some of these characters and some of these scenes and left them off for a 6-episode show was very thin and very lazy. I'm thinking of the end of episode 3. There's a scene where one of the characters watches another character just kind of be dragged away right in front of them in an area where it was like that, where that person really clearly could have gotten what they wanted in that scenario, but the script lazily had this happen because it had to go on further. They had other plans happening. Episode 4 was just a huge filler rehash episode that is just one of the worst written things in the world, for this, with the disguise being blatantly obvious to showing things on screen that would actually counteract what's happening, but just get completely ignored and dropped because the plot needs the story to move a certain way. And if you're going to show us things like fighter planes and a whole bunch of stormtroopers and things like this, you can't have it be so easy and so uneventful for people to escape or get away. For an example, in episode 4 at the end, without spoiling what happens, a couple of speeders come and save Obi-Wan, Leia, and another character, Tala, played by Indira Varma, who we all know from Game of Thrones, excellent actress, in a hangar bay that they show us multiple times that there's hundreds of stormtroopers and dozens of TIE fighters, and they just pick up, and they see these people coming, and there is actual combat that happened with these speeders, and they just come and pick up Obi-Wan and the crew, and there's no actual recourse from the Empire. You would think they'd have air support up there. There's TIE fighters. You'd think there'd be TIE fighters on patrol, or somebody getting ready to go in TIE fighters whenever the base is being under alert. Very, very poorly written, very, very poorly done in that way. And a lot of that show is just this overall. I feel how Obi-Wan's character growth, why it was somewhat there, we didn't get to spend enough time with him as a character to really understand where he begins and his transformation to where he ends in the show. It's very, very quick, it's very, very cut and paste, and it isn't very deep. And in all honesty, I think a lot of the time of the show was wasted. And I hate to say this because Moses Ingram is an amazing actress. If you haven't seen her in Queen's Gambit, go and watch that show. It's an amazing, amazing show. And Moses Ingram is a rock star in that show. So she's not a bad actress. She's a great actress overall. But she was written this Reva character that is so lazily, blandly written and takes up so much of the story as an antagonist and even protagonist in some ways, that we don't get enough time spent to understand Kenobi's journey and where he's at. We don't get enough time to understand where Vader is mentally in this world and what's going on for him and what's progressing him. We don't get enough time um, and writing spent understanding the different causes that is happening throughout the show. It's very very thinly written. It's very paint by the books, and some of the decisions characters make, like Vader, like Reva, like Obi-Wan, just don't make logistical sense as an individual using common sense. In fact, at the end of episode 5, there is a character who's played by Rupert Friend, the Grand Inquisitor, who straight up says something in episode 5 that is like, okay, cool, you're acknowledging this. So why aren't you doing the thing that you're commenting about? Why are you leaving the same problem happen that you just talked about happening in your little speech there? It's like common sense for these characters aren't a reality. So many times, characters are being forced to do dumb things because we know certain characters have to live because of the future stuff, and because this, the script puts them in scenarios that they can't win out of. And it really causes a lot of these action scenes not to hold no weight, because you can have like the final episode shows, you can have great action scenes where that there's no mortal danger for either individual, but through the character moments, have great interaction with each other and lift those action elements up. But so much of the series is missing that overall. Reva as herself is a horrible, horrible written character, and Moses Ingram, especially in episode 5 and 6, does her best acting job to save poor dialogue and poor writing and asking the audience, I feel, too much to forgive and forget with her character. That when you're having this amazing interaction between Vader and Obi-Wan, it's just so jarring when in the middle you just get cut off to go back to Reva in a storyline that honestly didn't need to happen, because the stakes there had nothing at all to me. And this happens throughout the show. But without going into spoilers, that's kind of my thoughts. I do think if you're binging this show, if you like Star Wars and you just want to see being in the Star Wars world and stuff, you might enjoy this show. I do think, it does have a couple nice lightsaber action senses. I think if you binge it in the 6 episodes, it's about 3.5 hours, which is long, but isn't that much longer than some of the movies out there. I think you can get past some of this bad, poor written writing. I think doing this show week by week actually hurt it overall, because I think you kind of had to think back at what the writing was, and you had time to soak and understand that what they have doesn't make sense. And where if you're just watching it as a binge, I think you're going to overlook some of those details overall that maybe I didn't enjoy myself. But I also think, judging by the response from friends and others, that there's a lot of people who like this show a lot. There's a lot of people who think this is a masterpiece, that this show was exactly what they wanted. And for those people, I'm so happy for, because art is subjective. People are going to like things that you like. People are going to not like things that that you don't like, and vice versa. All these things. So there are a lot of people out there who are loving the show. So I do recommend people give it a chance. Give it episodes 1 and 2, and if you are buying into the story and you want to see more, finish it out the rest of the way. If you aren't liking it after the first 2 episodes, this probably isn't a show for you. I know it's only 6 episodes long, but there wasn't enough here to support 6 episodes. But there also wasn't enough time to fill out, there wasn't enough time with just 6 episodes to flesh out these characters. And while the finale had a great interaction between Obi-Wan and Anakin with Vader, the show overall left a bad taste in my mouth, and it's not something that I'm really going to strongly recommend for other people. And I honestly think we deserve, I personally think a lot of us deserve better when it comes to writing these shows and these movies when it comes out of Disney Plus, because this, along with Moon Knight and Hawkeye and Book of Boba Fett, I feel like we've had 4 very mediocre shows come out of Disney Plus, in the last 6 months. And I know people enjoy some of those people. Some people really enjoyed those things, but I think are putting. I think there's also a lot of rose-tinted goggles. And when I see shows like Severance, when I see shows like Stranger Things season 4, I'm looking forward to the Umbrella Academy here. Shows last year like Succession, Arcane, Euphoria. No, maybe not Euphoria as much, but there's so many. Even shows like WandaVision, Loki, and Mandalorian. There's so many good shows out there that are, I feel, in my personal opinion, so much higher quality than what we've gotten out of some of these Disney Plus shows the last half a year. That I want more and more, out of Disney, more time, more thinking about a plot, more easy writing, pushing out seasons that have more than just 6 episodes, and actually developing the characters in it throughout. And giving people time and and making the characters more relatable and more deep instead of very bland style moments and just trying to go from action scene to action scene like I think Obi-Wan did. But those are my thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi. What are your guys' thoughts? Leave a comment down below. Am I being too hard on this show? I give it about a 6 out of 10. And or is this something that you agree with me on and stuff? And I gotta say, anybody who's trying to make racist or comments or say that Disney's trying to drive an agenda or whatever for Reva and the third sister with Moses Ingram, get the hell out. She's an amazing actress in other work. They had an idea for this character that, honestly, if it was its own show, would have worked very well. If the show was given a 10-episode run, it probably would have worked decently well. But in a 6-episode, fast-paced, 3.5-hour show, you couldn't write a brand new character like this while also still servicing Obi-Wan's character growth as well as Vader and where he's at in the moment and all the other aspects they tried throwing into the show. But she does the best she can with a very poorly written role, and I can't believe the scripts made them out of anybody who's trying to drive hate and racism towards her for those things are just bad human beings, and it sucks that I have to say stuff like that. And I'm not defending Disney because I think they baited this out a bit by saying in the beginning that people aren't going to like her character because of her race. I think they knew they had a poorly written character for her, and they tried deflecting that early on. But not Moses Ingram does not deserve that. She's an amazing actress. Again, go check her out in Queen's Gambit and some of her other work. This Reva character was just not well written in this 6-episode format, and it took way too much time away from Obi-Wan and the journey he's going on overall. So yeah, that's my last comment on that. But yeah, go ahead, leave a like, leave a subscription. We have Elvis coming out this week. Future TV shows, Umbrella Academy, Stranger Things season 4 is going to end up next week. The Boys is continuing going on. That's been great so far. So we'll sprinkle in some TV reviews in here with these movie reviews overall. But until next time, I hope you guys have an excellent day, excellent week, and I'll see you for the Elvis review or Umbrella Academy review up next. Peace.